Okay, so welcome back to episode 5 on this monstrously popular popular podcast or video, whatever we're calling it. Um, so it's November the 12th, and we're back going through the training plan and looking into what's happening this week on the journey to Badwater, along with another listener question, which I'll spring on Fletch. So he's got we can get his reaction in a minute. Anyway, how's your week gone so far?
So far, so good. So far, so good. A change to normal weeks, which is a welcome change. We are now, as we've been on a call, very close to pushing things live on one side of the business, and we've got another couple of. We've just set up a all-female team where the women are professionals in their own right. They've got C-suite level jobs. They're solicitors within a venture capital firm, or they're an investor within a capital firm, and they just happen to be able to run a 77-minute half marathon. So we sponsored 2 of those guys. So we're providing the coaching, we're providing the extracurricular testing and so on to be able to help make good decisions on their coaching. And they're going to start training together and start building a bit of a team environment around it. So that's quite exciting.
Oh, that's exciting. So there's an official One Track pro team out there now.
All female pro team too.
Exactly. Very good. Very good. Well, I'm just in the middle of a fairly tiring week, thanks to you.
I'm just looking through it.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that we might as well go straight into the training program and have a look at halfway through my Wednesday and where we're up to.
Yeah. I was just going to show the guys a different view of what I see. I don't think you've seen this view either, actually. This is kind of where we overlay your data on top of what you should have been doing. As you can see, what's called spicy. So this is last week.
Yeah.
We had our first introduction to the longer intervals, the 2x8, which you cracked out quite nicely. We can see you covered like 2 kilometers pretty much on each one. And with that, the recovery's a little bit active, covering 0.3 of a kilometer. So doing pretty good there, just to kind of keep things ticking over within the recovery, push back up again. We use this with the heart rate, so we can see 159, 162, so a bit of a suppression in the second heart rate, which is usually a good thing. Potentially that's down to the pace being a bit slower, minutely. So good news is we got a good response there within the same bracket of zone.
Yeah.
And then we added on another rep to that this week. So you've done your 3x3K already. So you've got 3K work there. Heart rate response, 160, 157, 157. So pretty much consistent across the board. As always, metronomic pacing. You're dying.
Yeah, I was suffering. I was struggling. I not struggling, but I definitely didn't feel it. Well, there you go. So you're gonna start showing all my Strava comments here. So I was not feeling it.
Was not feeling it.
Yeah, it was. Well, it was lash from the rain. But as I always tell people, we're not soluble, so that wasn't my excuse. But no, I was just kind of feeling like just hitting the pace was a bit harder. Not almost maybe it's my back a bit, sort of a bit like range of movement rather than fitness, if that makes sense. So I felt like I just wasn't sort of striding out quite as much. But
maybe starting. If we can't look up. Yeah, if we can't look up through the weeks, well, we've got 66 kilometers done, moved into 76, 78, moved into 83, and we're due a bigger week this week as well. So we've been pushing things gently, and this is now where we start to go, okay, fatigue is building. We'll get this bit out of the way. We're looking forward to the idea of having a nice recovery day on Thursday. We hit a big weekend. Maybe next week we do another deload, and we kind of work on maybe like an ABC deload, or it could even be an AB deload. That's now where we're kind of getting to the pointy end of the stick to be, okay, we're pushing the body with stress. We're probably getting marginal gains. So a lot of work happening to get small returns, and we have to be very careful now how hard we're pushing you. So
Yeah.
we'll get the session
Yeah.
out of the way. We'll look forward to next week where we pull back a little bit. Unfortunately, there's a bit of a hump to get over first.
Yeah. No, I'm all up for it. It's all good. And and on Friday, no, Saturday, we had Saturday I had my negative splitting 5K or 20K run, which I rather enjoyed my the view. And then actually, and then the Sunday was a similar one with a 5K push at the end. So with a whatever pacing thing. So yeah, no, it was good. It was good. Good week.
Yeah, no, we've got the where is it? The graph from your 5K negative split here beautifully. So 5K, 5K, 5K. Supposed to be 5, but you decided to go a bit faster.
No, it's
Then it's supposed to be
3 seconds out.
3 seconds out. You're terrible. We're supposed to be 4:45. You nailed it. We're supposed to be 4:30. Pretty much nailed it. We're supposed to be 4:15. Pretty much nailed it. So as a pacer, I think you've got another career coming. To be honest, but as an athlete as well, to be able to sort of hit those speeds and feel comfortable doing that and feel confident doing that is awesome. So that gentle progression through the heart rate as well to be expected as speed increases, heart rate is increasing at a similar rate. It's not going
Yeah.
exponentially higher because the speed's increasing, showing that there's probably a good steady state there as well.
Yeah, it's interesting on that session. The first, the transition. So if you're going along at whatever it was, 5 minutes, that first bit where you start going at 4:45 or 4:30 or 4:15, like the first bit, I guess you just got used to the pace you're at, and so that first maybe 500 meters or something, you're suddenly like, this feels far harder. But then you settle into it, and then it's on the next transition you feel it again. You definitely seem to get used to. I think I don't know, your legs, your mentally, whatever, you get used to the pace you're on, and then a change feels hard, but you soon settle into that change, and then you're on the next level. So
Yeah, and the great thing about that is it can be explained from a physiological perspective because I think we talked about this on maybe episode 2. If we can start quoting episodes, go back and read that one if you want to. But we talked about the idea of the kinetics. So when you accelerate at the beginning of a race, your body provides the speed instantaneously, but the energy from your aerobic system takes time to wind up. So you can provide pace instantly, but in order to make that steady, it takes time. And 15 seconds per kilometer actually is a reasonable change in speed or stress, we can call that. And so a tiny portion of that is going to be anaerobic. That change in gear is predominantly going to be a very small amount of time going to be anaerobic. And at those durations and those intensities, the body's probably like, well, we can't do that too many times. And therefore, as you then get back into steady state again, it kind of just crunches out the supply and demand.
okay, yeah, no, I get. So there's that adaptation is the simplified, the system switching over. Like you quickly change pace because that's just physical mechanics, but then behind the scenes your body's having to say, okay, what's going on here with this idiot's off again, let's switch to the we'll change how we're fueling or powering this thing.
Exactly that and
Cool.
we can kind of train that as well. And there's I think we talked about another time, is like you've got like a certain amount of matches in a matchbox, and each time you change or accelerate speed or even decelerate in some instances, you strike a match. And then you only got a certain amount of matches. So by the end of the race, you want to be able to strike that last match as you are about 100 meters from the line. That's the ideal.
Yeah.
But through training, we're also trying to whittle a few more matches into our matchbox too.
Yeah. Luckily, my races don't involve 100-meter sprints. Otherwise, I would be. Or I might feel like it's a 100-meter sprint at the end, but it definitely wouldn't look like a 100-meter sprint at the end. Very good. So tonight I've got 3 by 8 minutes at 3:45 pace, which I think, that to me, or for me, it's a hard pace to hit. And so I feel in those sessions, it's like I can go off and get whatever, I don't know, 3:30 or something, but holding 3:45 feels like it's so close to max speed. It's quite hard to maintain.
Mm.
I guess that's a function of that session. It's close to the max that you can do. I feel on those I'm close to my full speed, if that makes sense, rather than it's like it's a more of a mechanical limit as much as a physical limit.
Yeah, and in its own right, that's why we're doing it, is to be able to get you more used to, more economical at, more comfortable with those speeds. I mean, you hit 351 last time for the full 8 minutes on average, so and then 358. You're really close to that gear. It's going to be your body basically constructing the shapes and getting used to the impact and what timing that impact happens as well. Running fast is a practice. It's not something you do by running slow, no matter what social media wants you to believe. You can't run slow in order to run fast. Yes, there's an underpinning aerobic adaptation you're after, but if you want to run fast, you have to run fast.
Yeah. And I can see that when I set off for that interval, I am running differently. Like I can feel I'm running in a different way to what I kind of settle into almost. And I guess that's a part of that thing, is that, like you talked about before, like running fast is loading up the tendons. There's more elasticity and there's all that sort of stuff involved. Whereas, it's less of or at some point you then transition into that more muscular approach. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you have to have both, because in order for a decent trail runner to exist, you have to have the ability to endure the elastic nature of running, but also the sort of the raw physicality of it, aka uphill. You're going to be basically using a lot more muscle mass than you are tendon springiness. So you're going to have to be good at that too.
Yeah. Very good. Right, we've got our question now. So
Hit me.
I'm gonna have to we're gonna have to frame this a little bit better. Anyway, I'll read the question out and then we'll see where we're at. So, okay. In a previous conversation, you said, and I don't know whether that was me or you, the long runs not exceeding much more than 25K. If you look at a traditional marathon training plan or training program, they will max out at a couple of weeks away with a 30K run, i.e. 3/4 of the race distance. Does Fletch have a slightly different philosophy for marathons, or is it purely that building up to, e.g., 100K training runs for Badwater simply isn't feasible? And race pace differentials might have an impact, I'm guessing, too. So the first point of order is, it's another question for Fletch. It's not a question for both of us. Anyway, so yeah, the gist of the question is, even though I'm training for a 135-mile race, or in the case of Daytona in a few weeks, 100-mile race, the long run isn't just a proportion of 3/4 of the race distance. Is that at what point, I guess, does that link break? 10Ks, half marathons, ultras. And I guess there's a question for you on marathon training. Do you believe in that kind of 3/4 distance or whatever it is, long run? And is it a function of overall distance or pacing, etc.?
Yeah, I think the answer to that one is it depends. Annoyingly, and that's if you wanted a simple answer, that's kind of where we would leave it, because it's such an individualized thing, training and programming, that some people do need to go more towards the 30, maybe even further sometimes, to even just the marathon, because it could be a psychological factor that they're playing with there. They want to know they can do the distance. There definitely is a durability piece. It's kind of like the new era of marathon science, is that the fourth dimension is this sort of physiological durability. What that's kind of defined as is your ability to start at a very fresh point and end at a not quite so tired point.
Right.
So the decline of your physicality over time is defined as your durability. We know that running more than 30 kilometers is aiding durability. So you're able to go further, therefore you're more durable, and so on. However, lots of people are not up to doing that distance as part of a 12-week training plan.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of time pressure that we put on for these marathons that say, okay, right, you've got your place, go, go, go. And I've never run before. And now Christmas is around the corner. I need to get all the presents sorted. Oh, I'll do it in January. Then January comes along. Oh, it's crazy now. February. Okay, February, I'm going to train. February, March, April's here. Oh, crap. Now I've got to fit a 30K run in. Suddenly now I'm injured. Now everything else. So, yes, I think you definitely can factor in longer runs. And if that's something you want to work on, there are other ways of peeling that same carrot with durability. Intensity is definitely one of them. Strength training is another big part of it. Nutrition is another big part of it too. And I actually would prefer to work on those ones and then have the option to go further if we want to, because there are much more risks associated with those ones.
Yeah.
On the flip side, when it comes to the longer distances, like the 100 miles and the further, is you can accumulate fatigue over the week, not just in a single session as well. So there's many more ways you can accumulate fatigue, which is ultimately what you're doing with that long run. So again, as always, without upsetting anybody, not using cats as an analogy for solving problems, but you can peel a carrot in many ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's, I mean, from my take on it now is earlier on, when I hadn't done many long races, I would want to do long runs because it was kind of like there's a bit of a psychological barrier, not barrier, hurdle to get over, which is like, can I even go for that long? You know, like, and therefore you're kind of building, yeah. And then we touched on it last week, that there is a blurred line between physical and mental, and when it goes from one to the other and stuff, and certainly in the really long runs, that the mental element is quite a big thing, and you have a lot of time to think, and if you're thinking, if the kind of monkey in your mind starts thinking about the wrong things, that will end your run, because the distance in front of you is just insurmountably high, and therefore you'll finish it. So I think there's that long run mentality of confidence of like, I have done this many times, therefore I can do it again. But at the same, and I think, and practically as well, like, you know, if a race is 100 miles and, you know, you're not going to have a good 100-mile race if 3 weeks before you do a 75-mile training run. You know, it's just too big a load, right? And I guess that comes into a lot of the sessions we do, or part of this plan is like back-to-back runs. So back-to-back medium-ish runs rather than just one massive long run that then you have to spend a couple of days recovering from. So, yeah, from my perspective, it's that now I don't worry about the long run, because confidence or kind of history and confidence will dictate. I've got enough kind of evidence for myself to say I can finish 100-mile or I can finish 100K. So that kind of mental part of it's less of a concern, and then it's more training the physical stuff, and that's, like you say, that can be tackled through different mediums rather than just that plain off you go and your week 9 plan, right?
100%. And I maybe use too many analogies in life, but there's one analogy I think really sticks with people, is that we don't treat racing like studying, in that you cram all your biggest studying in the later stages of the program. And like, it's the night before, I'm going to go out for a run because I need to get some more stuff in, I'm going to get fitter.
Yeah.
Or that kind of thing. And all the work is really done in the first couple of weeks, really setting the tone, setting the paradigm, setting the schedule. Okay, there's a blend of training away from where you started to getting to where you want to go, but you shouldn't leave it to the last 3 weeks to do your biggest volumes, really, because to recover from a 30K run probably takes a lot longer than you think, or a lot longer than you would want. Central nervous system wise, probably a lot longer than the body. So I think we've mentioned this before, the body recovers probably a bit quicker than the central nervous system does. And so that 30K run, suddenly you then got 2 weeks to recover, but you still got to do some running. So there's still fatigue being carried over from one to the next one. And what if you do pick up an injury in the last 5K of that 30K run? Because you can't email your body one morning and go, cool, how's the systems looking? You just find out as you go along. So there's many more risks associated with it's not a bad, it's trying to scare people off it, but it's just being considerate of, it's a big task to ask your body to do when you are so close to that event. Most people go into a marathon overtrained. Most people go into any event, I would say, argue, overtrained, because they're trying to cram it all in to make themselves feel fitter. And people cross-correlate fitness and fatigue quite nicely. So they go, oh, I'm more tired, therefore I'm getting fitter. No, that's not the way it works in the later stages. But also, to round that off, there are some people that can do it. And that's the most annoying thing about the human body, is you've got one person, probably like yourself, like you've got a natural talent for it in some manner. You don't get too much damage from training. There's going to be someone who's way more able to take on load. I was just trying to find his name. I can't remember it now, but there's an ultramarathon runner who, I think is Matt Bonn or something. He's trying to tackle a lot of the ultra distance, fastest known times.
Right.
And he was famously kind of going on a podcast talking about how he did back-to-back 130K runs as part of training. And he was never getting injured. Or without jinxing anything, lo and behold, he's now got a stress fracture. So no one's impervious to this stuff. It's just, it is a matter of how, if and when. If you're able to push your body, great, but then when are you going to see the tipping point?
Yeah. And I think it's, definitely like these long runs, that psychologically they're clearly really beneficial. I think that, there's a big, you gain a lot from that. But I think I would say then diminishing returns in terms of that side of it. I've spent a lot of time doing those long runs, or doing back-to-back long runs, or carrying more stuff than I would normally, once you start to understand your mind and your mindset and how to tackle races as well as these things, then it becomes more of a kind of, you don't need to worry about that so much. It's more to train the physical bit. And as I'm definitely experiencing, you can put more in a weekend with some pace, pace that I would never have considered as part of a long run. Why I would never have done a long run with whatever 5 going down to 4:15 pace in a long run. But as a weekend effort last weekend, if I was to look at that against stuff I'd done in the past, it's probably much harder than just going out and plodding along at 50K and sort of, and actually I've trained myself not only to take on a bigger load, but I've trained myself to be able to do it faster. So it's like two things. And then from that confidence of like, oh, I can at the end of a longer run go at a fast pace, which is like a whole thing that I didn't do in the past.
But it's exactly that, in that whatever is hard, do that. If it's hard for you to conceive going further, you need to do that. If it's hard for you to conceive to go faster, you need to do that, because that's where you're going to get the most psychological gain and confidence boost. Some people are very happy to go like long and slow, and that's great. But if they do want to see what they're capable of in some fashion, they're going to have to get out of their comfort zone. And some people do feel that 30K is comfortable, and then we have to make it different. Then, in order to get a stress response, you have to make it stressful.
Good stuff. Well, that is, I think we've answered it ish. So we'll see. We'll get some feedback and see how close we are. So I will limber up for my next session in a couple of hours, and then we'll catch up again next week and see how
Good to
things
go.
are going.
Love it.
Nice one. All right, Fletch. Well, I will report back. And I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, I'll look out for your notes.
Cheers. Bye bye.